Welcome to Cax Bar and Podcast, Canada's first podcast bar. What that means is you can come here for food, you can come here for drinks, you can also come here and record a podcast. Come on down, we're located in downtown Calgary, Alberta in the Beltline area. See you soon. And we're rolling. Back again. Sorry about the brief hiatus there. I need a summer break myself. But today I'm with Steph Gillies. I do got to admit, I first thought you pronounced your last name Giles. So yeah, and then I don't know, because when I was growing up, I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but like, have you seen it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
So remember Giles is the librarian, sorcerer, encyclopedia guy. So I was like, oh rad, like Giles, I love that name. And then I was just listening to your podcast. You pronounce it Gillies, and I was like, oh, yes. Still good, still cool, you know. But hey, like I can rattle off Steph's biography here, but how about you take the honors and let people know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background story is I had 32 jobs in 15 years. So I got really good at applying for jobs, if you can imagine, never really figured out what I wanted to do. And I ended up graduating with a social work degree and ended up in the nonprofit world. And that was kind of not really where I had planned to be, but it's just kind of where I ended up. And then during the pandemic, I was laid off, and it was kind of an opportunity for me to think, what do I really want to do with my life? Mm-hmm. So I kind of took some time to reevaluate and decided to jump in and start my own business. I'd previously been certified as a resume writer. Yes, there is a certification for that, if anyone's wondering. Yeah. And I decided to try starting my business as that. And that was 3.5 years ago. Now I've been, in my own business for 3.5 years, and it's been really great. I've helped over 1,000 people, transition into different jobs and, achieve jobs that they weren't planning on getting, or, make that transition to their dream job. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's like Steph's a career like story coach. That's that's her the way she explains it. I'll put her information in the show notes there. I just wanted, when I was going through your info here, like the 32 jobs, like what was some of them, and how did I think the reason why I thought you'd be a great guest is because the reality is so many people, like, they don't know what to do with their lives, and they struggle with that. Whether they're like a fresh university grad or something like that, because there's this weird feeling half the time, like, the schooling I took, I'm not even going to use. And then like, why did I even do that? Why I spent all that money, all that time? And when I was hearing that you made you turned your career into helping people basically out of these situations, I'm like, hey, commendable, because like, honestly, I wish someone like you was around when I first graduated. Because in university, I had a communication culture degree, which was general studies at U of C. Again, that's a real degree too, people. But reality was, it was hard to find work after. And then I ended up going to Satan, doing an oil and gas designation. And then I got into the energy world. But I did remember, like, if there was a little bit of help with someone with your skill set back then, that would have alleviated a lot of, I don't know, like, it just would help the direction be a bit more clear, because it felt so random after graduating and yeah. So, but yeah, what were some of these jobs? Let's hear your journey into finding out that you are the person to do this.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering them all. I have written a list, but my very first job, I worked as a trail guide, so like at a horseback riding place. And then I also worked at Starbucks for 2 weeks. Did not enjoy that. Not because of the company, just because it just wasn't my style job.
Yeah.
I worked at the running room. I was a rock climbing guide. I helped people learn to rock climb. I was a lifeguard. I worked at a bank. That was not me at all. I was not a banker.
Yeah.
And then I ran a nonprofit most recently as a executive director of a small family charity. Okay. And worked at a couple other nonprofits as well. That's just a few, like a sprinkling of the jobs.
So when you were doing each of these jobs, like I also had a bunch of random jobs too. They like, what made you keep bouncing around first?
I got bored. So I would get into it, and then I would be like, oh, this is so fun, learning something new. And then I'd get good at it, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm bored. Let's try something different.
Okay. All right. So that's like, but you found, like could you imagine if you didn't get bored, like, could any of these have had become a career per se? Like did you see a road in a map where you're like, you know what, financially, if I go up per se, like, then that could be, like that could, I don't know, like that could be the path, or or was it never about the money? It was just more about like man, like I need to stick with something that I'm passionate about, like all the time. Is it something more like that?
Yeah, I think it was more about like finding something I was passionate about. I tried so hard, like that's why I kept trying all these different things. I'd be like, "Oh, this is it. I'm going to be really excited about this." And then I would do it and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm not actually that excited about it."
Okay.
And so had I had a career coach when I was younger as well to
Yeah.
help me figure out ways to discover these passions without jumping around jobs, I probably would have had a little bit cleaner of a career trajectory.
Yeah.
But it's brought me to where I am now, and I'm happy with that. But
Right.
there were many years of like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know what, like, was so, yeah, it was hard to figure out for sure.
Hey, in a weird way, then, like you said something that just kind of got my attention here. It almost, it's like you needed to almost have this many jobs to be the person to do your job now, because you have all these perspectives, right? Like, because I mean, you wouldn't be able to be a career coach, I would assume, if it's you did one career the whole time, because then you just be a career coach like in that one thing, right?
Yeah, I specialize in helping people who have like a weird career background. So I've done lots of different, like lots of my clients come from, different areas. Then they, I've worked with someone who's a director in a bank and wanted to transition into a director in a nonprofit. So it's a very unusual transition. And so I've been able to help a lot of people with those unusual, kind of strange or not traditional career paths, which has been a lot of fun. And typically those aren't the types of people that career coaches are able to help very well.
Like, would you say that, I mean, yes, you help people find jobs, but is it more like you help people just get back in touch with who they are kind of thing? Would you say that that's like an element of what you do almost?
I think that's a really big part of it, because we spend 30% of our life at work. That's a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
And if you hate it, then you're not gonna, the rest of your life is gonna be affected as well.
Yeah.
And so, what I've really noticed with people is that if they don't enjoy their work, or they're not in an environment, or it doesn't support the life that they want, then they're not happy no matter what they're doing. Even if they were like, this is my dream job, this is what I thought I wanted, but it's impacting the rest of my life because I have to work like 70, 80-hour weeks. Now I don't have time for my family or whatever else other priorities you have. Even that dream job can seem like something they don't want to do anymore.
Yeah, and you went through that. Like 2020, you said that was your dream job at the time, you thought.
I thought it was, yes.
Which career was that, job was that again?
I was running a small family charity.
Family charity, okay.
And we were doing horse therapy for youth and seniors.
Okay.
And so we were bringing miniature horses into hospitals and at senior care homes and different things like that. And it was really fun.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty toxic work environment.
Ooh.
And so when I was laid off, it was really sad because I loved the job, but it also gave me some perspective as to, the kind of environment I had been in and different things like that. And it really made me realize that, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to be in that type of environment. And even if when it's your dream job, when you don't work with great people, it can really affect your work life.
Well, I think I heard a quote is people don't actually quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. If yeah, I mean, you can parlay that into any example, really. And I can relate to that. I mean, like, I've had some pretty sweet gigs where in the end I felt like I just didn't jive with the management, and I kept thinking in my head, man, 30 more years of this, like, like that can't, like does that, you have one life to live? And yeah, but I guess, like, it brings me to my next question right now. Do you this is maybe it's a loaded question, I don't know, but do you think too many people are now pursuing their dreams per se? You know what I mean? Like, do you kind of get what I'm asking? Where, because if everyone's pursuing their dreams, but then it goes in that next section was, just because you're pursuing your dream, what if you're not successful at it? Now you have a lot of people who are broke, and then they kind of like they lost that stability in their life, and then because of that, it also affected the relationships in their life, because I don't know, like, no one, it's hard for people to maintain relationships if one partner is always just broke, and I'm chasing my dream, right? But then you don't want to like, pardon my language, like, shit all over their dreams or whatever, because that's kind of wrong. But at the same time, but what's your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, my business is called Destination Dream Job because I really do believe in a dream job. But caveat on that is a dream job isn't necessarily pursuing your passions, or it's not necessarily being the broke artist who's sitting at home and can't make any money. That doesn't necessarily mean a dream job. A dream job is something that supports your entire life. So it's something that, you can fit into your life. I work with people who have a good enough job. That's what they call it, a good enough job. And they go to work, they're happy enough, they like it enough, they make the money that they want, and then they have time on their in their evenings and weekends to pursue their hobbies.
Mhm.
And so a dream job doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going to pursue my passions and start a business and fail at it and then try 5 more times or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I started my business full time, wouldn't necessarily recommend that. If people can start, a side hustle or start something on the side while you still have full income, it's a lot less stressful. I'm sure
Yeah.
you can relate to
Oh
that as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, so were you just so sure of your dream job situation that's why you kind of went all in, or was there or like what was the mentality behind not having the side hustle to kind
No, I wasn't sure at all.
Okay.
I started resume writing and another business at the same time. So I started my own kind of horse therapy business.
Mm.
And so I started both of them at the exact same time. And I thought, I was like, oh yeah, this resume thing will just be temporary. I'll just do it part time while I'm building this other business. And lo and behold, a year later, I quit the other business and went full time into the career coaching.
Mm.
Not what I had expected at all.
Okay.
And I did a lot of contract work. So I was essentially working a job, if you will, like
Yeah.
doing resumes and coaching for contract organizations so that I could continue to build my business on the side
Mhm.
and not have to worry too much about the financial side of it.
Okay. So, all right. So I guess I kind of like, I didn't entirely, misunderstand, the like what you do. I guess I was just too focused on like, oh, is it this, is about finding your passion, but like, yeah, you kind of clarified it. Like the dream job's not necessarily your passion. It's almost like you're, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's like you help people find that balance, I guess, for their life. Like, hey, you might be more suited for this job to anchor the rest of your life because of, your situation is XYZ or whatever. And okay, that's pretty interesting. Like, I mean, you don't have to name names, but like, what's an example of like a super success story, like of a client of yours?
Yeah, I just posted this on LinkedIn just the other day. So I had a client who came to me, and she's a scientist here in Calgary, and she had been laid off from her job, and she was pursuing other opportunities, and it just wasn't working out for her. She was applying for job after job. She found out that her reference was giving her a bad reference, which
Ooh.
was really surprising because she'd been at the company for 10 years and was very surprised by that. So she was very down, very frustrated, didn't really know what her next steps were. And so, we did some coaching around, what she wanted her life to look like, what kind of job she was looking for, what she wanted, her next step in her career to be. And she got this one job offer, and it was way below her level. Like, she was a senior scientist. It was way below what she was used to. And she was like, I felt like she had to take it. And so we weighed the pros and cons. And at the end of the day, she made her own decision to not take the job.
Mm.
After that, she was offered 3 more jobs that were more in line with her pay and her level, which was very exciting. She ended up turning them all down, pursuing her own third-party funding, and started her own business for an idea that she had been thinking about for like a year.
Uh-huh.
And so now she's full-time in her own business,
Yeah.
with full funding for at least a year to be able to check out and see if her idea works. And so it's very cool, like really exciting when different things like that happen.
Okay, interesting. Did you feel like in a weird way you're like why like you consider that a success story then? Because I guess you're not necessarily looking for like an outcome then. If I mean, because she pivoted, it was almost like yeah, she went through her experiences with your business, and then from there she discovered that, hey, I need to pivot and do this. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like, yeah, it's like not necessarily the definition of a success is not always like this black and white thing, right? Like because had she not gone through the processes with you, then she wouldn't have ultimately, like decided on starting that business, or unless she had in the back of her mind the whole time, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible, but I mean, success is different for everybody.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like for some people, they might be looking for that promotion. Other people, they might be looking to transition into something they're more excited about. Other people just like, she shared with me after that, I helped build that confidence in her to pursue this instead of just going for the next job and taking whatever came along.
How would you say you like built that confidence? Was it just the one-on-one coaching meetings, like asking the right questions to get her to think internally, or like I'm always curious about like how do you get someone more confident when they're like down, because like I don't know, I've always been, when I see a result, then I get confident, but how do you, before the result comes, how do you get someone to get more confident? Like, it sounds like there's an element of like you help people believe in themselves or something like that, right? Like,
yeah, it's a lot on looking back on what their career looks like before, thinking about those accomplishments. And, as a resume writer, someone who writes the resumes as well, a lot of people, once they see their updated resume, once we have that conversation, they're like, whoa, that's me? I didn't even realize that could be me. Yeah. But when you see it from that third party perspective, right? Like I come in, I hear about their work life, all the great things they've done at work, maybe things that they're just like, oh, that's just what I do. That's just like my day to day, right? Like, I don't really think that's a big deal. But to me, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a big deal. That is what a hiring manager wants to see on a resume. That is something that is really incredible. That might not just feels like normal every day to you. And we all feel that way in our jobs and in our life. We just don't always think about the great things that we've done. And so when you can pull those out for people, help them to see those things, and then writing them down on paper, people really start to be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I can offer the world.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a process, start to finish, learning about who they are, what they like, what they don't like, what they've done in their previous careers, and then building that into their personal brand that they can then, use in their job search.
Okay. Two quick questions to piggyback off that. First, I'll give you an example. Like there's someone I used to know back in the day was at my old oil and gas job. Like she was like in her 50s, and like you can tell she just wasn't into the job anymore. Like she was online shopping at the time, not working or whatever. And then I remember why, like, she got let go. And it was a sad day because people liked her on a personal level, but at the end, her projects were just falling behind or whatever. And then it was like half a year later, about like I saw her working at, I think it was HomeSense. Just like I'm not talking down on HomeSense. I just mean like, you went from a kind of like a professional administrative job that you have to go to school for and stuff, and then now you're doing like a retail, like classic job that primarily most people would do, like whatever, like in between schooling or something like that, right? But I remember like I'm bumping into her, oh hey, so and so, like how have you been or whatever, and like she wasn't doing good. She's just like, no, she's like, I just my skills didn't transfer to anything really, because all I learned was the processes from that big corporation for that big corporation. Like I started realizing like, I don't even know how to parlay this into. So I literally had to backpedal back to, well, what job would I have gotten as like my first job? And that's why she just kind of like grabbed something. And, but I remember sitting there thinking like, I haven't heard from her since, by the way, but I was thinking like, man, that's like that's kind of rough. You know what I mean? To look at it like that was the choice you took. But I guess what I'm trying to ask you is like, have you ever, like, how do you help someone refine their dream job? If they're like way older, or they've been living life a certain way this whole time and they feel a little bit hopeless or something like that, you kind of get what I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to quickly address the first thing that you said though, about her skills not being transferable. That is something that I have not found to be true. I think the key is when that happens and someone feels that way, it's usually because they haven't done that work with someone else or have like that external person to tell them,
they didn't have you basically.
These are your skills. You can use these are what hiring managers are looking for, and then spinning them in a way that people can understand. Because for sure, when I worked at that nonprofit, I thought the only thing that I would be able to do is get another job at another nonprofit, and that's not really what I wanted. But, now looking back at that person like 3.5 years ago, I could have done tons of different things if I had understood what my accomplishments meant and what those, other companies were looking for. And so I think there's a big misconception, because that person that I was talking about earlier, who was a director in a bank and wanted to move into the nonprofit world, those are vastly different worlds. And so to be able to take your skills from a bank and say, hey, I can come into your nonprofit and do something similar in a completely different industry, is a skill to tell that story, but also to be able to make that transition. And she was able to do it. She was successful in the transition. And I just think that there's just so many more opportunities out there than we think there is. You just have to get a little creative about the storytelling.
Okay. So, I understand what you're saying then, that I guess the person I was referring to in my scenario, I guess she kind of didn't even try to reanalyze how much more other skills she had, I guess, which is kind of like a bummer then in a weird way, pretty sad. But but that was years ago, so who knows? Maybe she worked with you since then. I don't know, right? Because as you said, you've had over 1,000 clients like since then, right? Okay. Well, right now, do you think that it's kind of like what we were discussing when I was connecting with you through email. Do you the work landscape right now, because you talked about the economy being challenging, like right now, like how do you feel right now about things like AI coming into the mix and things like that, kind of like disturbing, like a lot of people's actual skill sets, like what's your, I mean, what's your experience with something like that coming into the mix with with people trying to find their dream job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is an employer's market right now, so it's more competitive than it has been in previous years. But it won't always be like that, right? There's always ebbs and flows to everything. But people are so worried about AI coming in and taking over jobs. But what I've, as a writer, someone who's like the number one job who
I guess,
that
yeah,
can be
chat
taken over,
GPT.
yeah,
Yeah.
is the thing that I found is that, yes, AI can be very helpful, but even like with writing resumes, AI is helpful for people who understand what needs to go into a resume and knows what's next steps to take. But a lot of hiring managers now have AI readers, and they know if you have completely written your resume using AI.
Interesting.
So it's like, I think that my take is that AI is going to complement our work and not, it might replace certain menial tasks, that you need to do.
Hmm.
But overall, I think that it's going to be more of a complement. And if you are in a space where AI can be popular, I think getting on board and learning how to use it, it's so easy to use, can really help to, improve your job prospects. Because if they're like, oh, this is the AI we use, if you don't know anything about it or know anything about AI, you're going to be a step behind those people who know about it. So any courses you can take, anything that you can take to improve your skills in that area is just going to help you. And then continually growing your skills, right? Because we don't know the future of AI. I mean, I've seen AI edit some photos, and people with 5 legs is not really what we're looking for. So
Yeah.
I know it has a long ways to go, but we are going in that direction. So it's good to continue to upskill and learn more so that we can continue to be competitive in the job market.
So you're essentially work like you have a almost optimistic approach to work with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not be fearful of it, if you will. Okay, no, that's good. That's good. I don't know how I truly feel yet about the whole thing, because like I'm just like, just even doing this podcast, the amount of technological advances in editing and AI, like I'm just like, whoa, like some, like I previously I was paying a guy to do the clips. Now I got the AI doing the clips, and as and then got the guy calling back, be like, hey, you good with the clips? And I'm like, well, I got AI doing the clips, right? And but I don't know, but I guess in a weird way, it's always been like that. Like there's always been some kind of human innovation, and we had to adapt and not be stubborn and just stick to the old ways and essentially like kind of fall behind and become like obsolete, I guess. But yeah, but I guess your realm of work, the human touch can't be AI, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay, very good. Right now, like, can we whip up another example then of, was there someone, if there even was someone, that in a weird way, like you couldn't help them find their dream job, like the more they were breaking down the process with you, they were, you were like, this is actually tougher than, this is tougher than it sounds, or whatever.
I think that's a tough question. But I have worked with people who haven't been able to make a successful transition. But typically those people are maybe not as open to learning or trying new things. So I've had people who, they're like, I have a PhD, this is my work experience, I expect a certain level of a job. Even during a really competitive market, they're not willing to make any changes or adjustments to their expectations. Or I worked with someone who was in the job search for 18 months, which is very long. And she was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get a job. Like, this is not working. I don't know what to do.
Like,
But
she didn't take any job for 18 months of any kind?
She was working. She was working currently, and she was looking for a different job in her same market. She worked for the government in a very niche sector. And in the past 18 months, there had only been 5 jobs posted. And when we chatted, she wasn't willing to look at any other options.
Like, that's what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
She's just like,
So I was like, and then she was mad that her job search was taking so long. So those are kind of situations where you're like, if there's only been 5 jobs posted in 18 months, this could take many years for you to secure this job, because you're just like, when you think about online applications, you're looking at a 5% response rate. So that means that every 20 applications you submit, you're going to get 1 interview. if
Oh, wow.
if the stats are accurate for online applications.
Mm.
And so if you look at that for her job, she's not even on the board yet. She's only applied to 5 jobs. She's not even at 20.
Right.
So, it's just not like when you look at the statistics, statistically it's just not gonna be a short-term change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that those are some, people who are less open to change or less open to different opportunities. Those are the most challenging clients for sure.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice if age affects that? Like the older they are, maybe the more stubborn they are, or like trapped in the ways, if you will. Like, just quick example. Like, I mean, when I was working the energy job, we were dealing with some landowners sometimes. Like these guys would not send an email. They don't use computers still. And you're like, well, like we have to literally fax something. They learned how to fax, I guess, at some point. So you had to go down to the basement of, like one of these, skyscraper buildings downtown Calgary, go to find this ancient fax machine, fax it, because they at least put into their memory banks how to go to the local library and use the fax. And, some of these small towns. But I remember sitting there thinking like, man, like this is so inefficient, yet we have to work with this guy in this way. But like I'm like how would this person possibly transition out if they bought that land out from them? Like what do they do next? It's like they literally just know what they know. I don't know, like like, so does age affect that, or is it just all personality type depending on like your experience here?
I think it's more like it's been a lot of different ages. I've had people who are younger, middle-aged and older. The really challenging part is when people have been with a company for 30 years.
Yeah.
They're like 3 years away from retirement and they get laid off.
Right. Yeah.
Like that is really tough because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not planning to job search. They were just going to ride out their last 3 years and, move on and retire. And so those are, those can be a little more challenging, like emotionally challenging cases, just because they're really struggling with it and they have a hard time with it. I think that, there is still a problem of ageism in our workplace, whether they're older or younger, really young people too. There's been a lot of older people too that get laid off for someone who's cheaper and younger. And so that is a problem, but there's ways to go about it when you're writing your resume to kind of hide your age a little bit. Keeping only 10 to 15 years on your resume rather than like your full work history.
Right.
And just not trying to, not alluding, like taking off the dates that you graduated from your schooling and stuff like that, just to kind of remove some of those things to create a more unbiased experience. But, some of the great things that older workers can provide is they're more willing to stay at an organization. So us millennials and younger, the stats are we tend to stay at a job for 3 to 5 years. Okay. So, but, we're talking boomers, they stay at jobs 10, 15, 20. If you're my dad or my uncle, 40 years,
This is a different time. That was just the way it was.
Exactly.
It was very systemized, like the way you lived your entire life. It's like work is work. And then, I know, but keep going. It's just, so those ones are, well, it sucks. It's just tougher, I guess. Right?
Yeah. But then also like, if an employer really thinks about it, when you have an older worker, they tend to stay longer. If they get into a job and they're like, 55, they're likely going to stay all the way to 65. And so if the employer doesn't want to train up new people, it can be a huge benefit to hire someone who's a little bit older. Whereas if you hire someone, in their 20s or 30s, they're likely going to be there 3 years and then they're going to move on to the next opportunity if you can't provide that for them.
Right.
So if you really do think about, like, look at the research and what the different generations can offer an organization, I think there's a lot that, people of all ages can offer. And I think having a diverse workforce can be really helpful.
Yeah. Okay. I see. So basically just kind of, again, like it sounds like I appreciate it. Like you're very optimistic, like you're problem solving towards the positive, basically, because, you're just like, no, there's a way. We just got to, basically, like change your paradigm, like how you see your reality, basically, and change, what's your opinion about things like keeping up with changes in life? Do you like, because like you seem like, just based on just the way we've been talking right now, you've adapted well to the times, if you will. Like, do you feel like it's super important for everyone to be able to just keep up with how everything is changing so fast? Or would you say, it's to each person or something? Because that's something I feel like I feel is important. I feel people need to be just constantly they need to be constantly learning. You can't be resting on laurels and routine. You like that's how. And I have to take that advice myself sometimes. Because I don't know, everything just seems so changing so rapidly all the time. So how do you get your footing?
Yeah. I mean, that is an interesting question. I mean, where everything is changing. And I do believe in constant learning. I love reading. I love learning all the time, as most entrepreneurs do, because there's just a lot going on when you have to start your own business. But I think that honestly, like, it really depends on the industry. If you stick to a more traditional industry, so by traditional, I typically mean like the banking, financial industry, the education industry, like different industries like that tend to stay the same a lot. And so there's not as much, even COVID they had to really innovate to change. And a lot of universities especially have just gone right back, as soon as it's over. And so if you're not really into that kind of space, getting into those safer, more traditional industries is a great way to go. But if you are someone who is innovative, loves to learn, loves to change, getting in with these newer companies, and by newer, I mean like, Google, Meta, any of those big companies, those tech companies. And there's lots of innovative tech companies here in Calgary as well that are doing really neat things. And I think like there's other companies that are outside of tech as well, but they take on that same innovation and excitement in in their work. I'm thinking of like Lululemon as an example. They're a Canadian-based company, and they are. Yeah, they're really innovative, and they encourage people to come from different backgrounds and have like different work experiences into their jobs so that they can bring different perspectives. And so when you really think about it, if you want to change careers, or you want to use your background for something different and you want to learn and grow, then looking at what the company's values are can be a great way to determine if it's a good company to do that with.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like it does sound like it's up to the individual, I guess. I guess what I'm trying to kind of piggyback off that is I think there's, how do I say this, not being rude, but because too many people want things never to suck. They're just always, they're always like, I just like my routine. I don't have to think. I clock in, I clock out, I take my pay, and then I go watch Netflix all day. And, I almost feel like, man, like no one's safe doing that anymore, man. This wasn't like the factory days for, you can be at a company for 40 years. And it's kind of the exact same job. And you just get comfy in your role. And like, I mean, that in a weird way had its advantages because people didn't have to stress their brains out and learn more. They could just be the same dude over for 40 years and just really enjoy their routine. And, but right now, I don't know, just the way I'm observing, we're just going to have this massive group of humans that are just super bummed out all the time because they never got in the habit is the main word of being uncomfortable and learning new things, then I feel like I'm actually noticing a lot more now the more I observe just even worldwide. That's why I think there's a huge like opioid crisis and this and that, but yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not looking for a solution or nothing, but it just sounds like based on your observation, it is up to the individual. But would you say, do you notice could you give a percent, like out of every 100, would you say, like based on, all your clients, would you say, like 10 out of every 100 is kind of like, like can't teach an old dog new tricks or something like that, or no, or have you had or have things gone well? You just found like a lot of positive go-getters here, ready to adapt and dig deep inside and see all their worth,
Yeah. I mean, typically people who pursue coaching usually are the type of people who want to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough to give it a percent because I think I would be giving it a biased percentage because of the people that come to me typically are those people. I think that, if you are learning to get that, if you want to get that competitive edge, you have to be someone who's going to be willing to learn and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, when people interview for roles, I always tell them, the people they're looking for are people with a growth mindset, people who are willing to learn and grow. Maybe you don't have all the skills that they're looking for, but you're a coachable person, someone who's going to be enjoyable to be around, someone who's going to, take their feedback and use it and action on it. That's going to be, the thing that's going to set people apart from those people who don't do that.
True. Okay. Did you play sports growing up or anything like that?
I played water polo.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah, like I played in gym class and stuff. But yeah, would you say it's kind of the analogy is it's kind of like finding, like the athletes are the most coachable are the ones who, like excel the most. So it's kind of like the same thing where, hey, you have to come in and, you gotta be coachable, but you might look stupid for a while because you're relearning things, or you're firing up the engine again that hasn't been fired up for a long time. I asked this because of, I know a lot of like, not trying to single them out here, but it just is what it is. Like a lot of people that are moms, and then they became, like they worked around 25, and then they were a mom until their early 40s, and then they have to re-enter the workforce. And but man, like their confidence is like not really what it once was, because they're almost like, what is happening all around? Like it's not like I'm not in life, but I haven't had to use my brain in this way, And then they like one is like a family member friend, and then that mom like worked maybe 1 year and was like, that's horrible, and then just kind of like, I don't know, she just kind of went back to not working, and then the fortunately her husband like was still able to provide financially. But I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, man, like I never thought of it that way, because if you're just you just lived a certain way for the last 18 years, 20 years, I mean, like a lot's changed. Just look at your phone, how often that like that changes. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like, I guess I'm kind of hammering this because like I see it as a problem. Like I can see it like day to day. There's a lot of people out there that aren't able to adapt right now, and I just think like I don't know, like in a weird way, they need more people like you around to like kind of like get that out of them, because like the amount of people I notice who are just miserable at their jobs, but they're also not willing to change because they're trapped in this cycle of like, oh, I hate what I do. I'm so tired at the end of the day from doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna go get drunk and watch TV, and it's like, okay, getting drunk part, fine. Like we serve booze here, good customer, like, kind of a paradox, but at the same time, like, man, this is happening way too often.
I think it's definitely especially tough now because it's of the employer's market. If
Yeah.
you're not willing to do the work, there's 10 people lined up behind you who are.
Yeah.
And, people used to, I remember like 3 or 4 years ago when I started my business, people are like, you're sure you want to start a business? Like, being an employee is much more secure. And over the past 3.5 years, the amount of people that I've seen get laid off from these jobs that they were like, this is it, I'm here for life, is just like, it's really not as secure as it used to be.
It's never secure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you always need to be, I always tell people, whether they're clients or they're not, is you always have to look out for yourself. If you're working at a job and you get offered a better job, you need to evaluate whether that is the right choice for you, not whether you're going to let the company down. Because at the end of the day, they wouldn't hesitate to let you down if they needed to cut costs and, fix their bottom line. So you always need to put yourself priority.
How do you feel about that aspect of human nature?
Oh yeah, I hate it. I think it's terrible. I think big business has just taken over a lot, and it's all about money. It's not about people anymore, and that's I don't like that at all.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like it's what we are, though. It's kind of strange. Hey, the more, because like I did have the whole, I was an employee until I wasn't, right, and as I became entrepreneur, it was like, it's weird now that you see it from the other side, where there was all those times where I was thinking like, whoa, when I was the employee, the boss was the bad guy. He's the one constantly making me feel like I need to be threatened for my job safety, and but now I'm on the other end. I'm like this is just so crazy to flip the coin and see it now, where I'm like, dude, like you're letting me down because you don't get how, like, by you not being into your role and doing it right, it has a domino effect of, and it's actually costing money. And then in the end, they're just thinking about their job, but they don't realize without the business, they don't have a job, and it's like, and then I don't know, sometimes I wrestle with that at night where I'm like, man, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, like just being human sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference though between, people who are, and like, I don't know how you would evaluate this, but there's a difference between people who are trying to make it work and are building a business, making decisions for the best of, not just themselves and their bottom line, versus companies out there who are, it's only about the bottom line,
right?
Which I'm sure you can relate to. And I'm sure people, watching can relate to this too, is there's some organizations where you're just like, you're cutting these costs. Like, cutting pay by like $10 or something, just to like, that is only about the company. That's not about, employees doing better or being happy at work. And so I think there's that, there's a balance between that. I don't know how you would evaluate it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the product, right? I mean, I still smoke like cigarettes whenever I drink alcohol, and because it feels good. But I'm like, but this industry should never be needed to be around. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just like so anything that they're doing it's of course that thing's about the money, but then it's a paradox too, because it's like, I just noticed this entrepreneur thing has brought out my constant analysis of human nature now, and sometimes it's frustrating to like put a pin on it, because sometimes you just want to don't do anything anymore, because you're like, this is so horrible. Like, but then at the same time, you're like, but I'm so exhilarated chasing my dream. And I don't know, it's just so wild. Like, but how do you feel like overall? Like you just said, that you feel like more empowered of taking control of your own security, not having worried about getting laid off. But at the same time, it's like with all the stress, how you've been managing that,
Yeah, I think when I first started my business, I was so naive. I was like, why doesn't everyone just start a business? Like, I just don't get it. And now I get it. Like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
When you are your own boss, your coworkers can be really mean because your coworkers yourself.
Oh, okay.
I'm my own coworker, right?
Yeah.
And we're not always the nicest to ourselves. I think that it's a lot. I mean, it's the best professional development program I've ever done in my life. The best learning I've ever done, is starting a business, because you have to face your own demons, especially when you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
And, it's very interesting. It's very challenging. It's a lot of fun. There's days where I'm like, I should just get a job. And then there's days where I'm like, I will never get a job again. The problem is the big thing for me is the freedom with my own schedule. Working online is something that I would never be able to go back to a job, because that would be a really huge challenge for me to be able to just if your kid's sick or you got to go pick your kid up from school or whatever, you can just go and do it, and you don't have to check with anybody and whatever. And so that's like, but then you also balance the other side of, they're sick, but I have meetings all day. You have to kind of do them anyways, or you don't get paid. So it's kind of like a catch-22, but it's definitely something I don't think I will ever not be in business, because I just really enjoy it. I just think it's going to evolve over time.
Yeah, it definitely it brings, as you mentioned, like the demons thing. You can't hide from yourself once you're doing this. Like that I was naive as well. Like there's certain things where I was like, because in the past, any other job, it's like, Debbie from accounting will take care of that. You know what I mean? But now you're like, whoa, like it's, I don't know. It is true. Like there was a lot of naive optimism as well when I did it, but you can't compare the good. The good is so exhilarating, but the bad is like, like you're just like, you're like, this sucks. But I don't know, but I suppose you kind of have to just keep grinding like this until you make it, right? Because once you're there, like, because everyone who's, I guess, super wealthy, they were an entrepreneur of some sort. They're not an employee. That's just the reality. And the people who have all these amazing free time later, after they've gone through hell and back to make it their business functioning, like they're also entrepreneurs. Can you point out a success story of like a hyper success story of someone with total freedom and everything who's just an employee, when you think about it? Like, I can't.
Yeah, no.
Not even off the top of my head. So it doesn't work like that. Did you have did you have any fear when you went off on your own to do your business?
Oh yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah. Like, did you almost talk yourself out of doing it? Like, what made you follow through?
So I was laid off and I went on employment insurance for a while. Unemployment, whatever you call it.
Yeah,
whatever it is. I went on that I made my decision, because I got laid off in June. So if you ever get laid off, try to get laid off in June. I had the best summer. I took it off. It was great.
Yeah.
And then, September rolls around and you're like, got to decide, okay, I need to make a decision here, what I'm going to do. And so when I went back, I was like, my goal was to make $2,000 to cover, the EI payments. Like, if I can just do that, then I'll be fine. And so I still had those payments coming in when I started my business. And then, as it ran out, I had replaced it. So it was like, and more, which was really good. So
Good
that was
transition.
helpful. Yeah, it was helpful during that transition period.
Mm.
But it was still terrifying. Like, I mean, relying on yourself and feeling that pressure, I think, is the hardest part of a new entrepreneur, because when you feel that pressure to make money, the people you talk to also feel it, and you don't do as well, right? Like, people don't relate to you as much. So
yeah, they get lost up. It's not with the product now. It's like,
Yeah.
this person's operating from a place of whatever, backs against the wall or
yeah,
something.
exactly. Yeah. So
I just want to keep figuring out this in your experiences compared to mine, I guess. How'd you handle it the first time you stumbled upon, just you're like, I gotta do this, and then you're just like, holy crap, like I'm not very good at that part of this whole thing. I know I'm being a bit cryptic, but like because now you're like, normally where you work for someone, maybe there's something you can pass off, or something, but you're like, I can't pass this off because this is literally like, it's up to me here. Like, I don't know. Like, how, like, or did you not run into that yet?
No, I have run into it, but I think, like, with my previous work experience, when running that family charity, I was the only employee.
Mm-hmm.
So I was running already a business. It was a nonprofit,
Okay.
so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I was doing like almost all of the stuff anyways.
Yeah.
And so I had a little bit of experience doing that kind of thing, kind of balancing your time. But I think, like, for most coaches that I've encountered, it's the marketing side that we're all not very good at, right? We're really good at the coaching. We're really good at working with clients, but it's the sales and marketing that has been the hardest. And so I've taken a lot of training. I don't even know if I'm still that good at it, but I just go for it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hired a marketing coach and, had them help me, make a plan and different things like that. And, I just execute every day, and then I reevaluate, every few months to see if it's working.
Interesting. The last thing you just said, you reevaluate every few months to see if it's working, because like the marketing coach, I would imagine you would follow their advice, either if one, you can detach your emotions and listen to it objectively and be like, that makes sense. Okay. Or because maybe that marketing coach isn't like super successful yet either, or they have a crazy track record and you're like, hey, I'm jumping on board, yeah. Like, I mean, like were they, that marketing coach, were they already successful? Like,
yeah, so she was a little different. She works like with other businesses, helping them be trauma informed in their marketing. So like thinking about, the types of traumas that people have experienced, and not using fear-based marketing in order to get people in. And so it was kind of a unique kind of perspective, which I thought was really cool. It was kind of based on like neuroscience, which was really interesting. But so yes, so she was successful, but she didn't work with a lot of coaches, like individual coaches. So it was kind of a unique opportunity for me to get in there and learn from her. And then I executed. Honestly, my marketing has been like up and down since I first started. And so, but as when you're more consistent, because it's not something I'm excited about.
Right.
So, but when you're consistent, you start to see, you see a lot more of the, the rewards for doing the work.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I mean, well, even when I like Googled you and followed your links, I mean, no, I find your presentation good. It's just it's like, again, marketing is a whole art. It's like, you're like, most of us get into what we're doing because we want to do the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, and then you start to realize, you're like, I think it was it was this internet social media influencer who said this, but he said the hard reality about business is realizing, like, he's like, it's not the thing, it's the thing that sells the thing, that makes you money. And then so it's like, it's not the burger from McDonald's, it's the marketing about the burger that you're seeing. There's, otherwise you wouldn't even know about the burger. And that, you're right, like that other part is frustrating, because like we all got into this for like the bar and doing this, we're like, oh right, we have to tell people about this and like like nonstop figure out how to get it into their eyes and ears. Like, we gotta sell the thing all the time. And yeah, like and then like, if you're not particularly necessarily super good or dialed in with that, it's like it can be challenging, because you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it, like, no one's gonna know about it, and then it's kind of like just goes into the abyss.
Yeah, and to bring that back, like, to job seekers, is, when you're job seeking or you're building your own career, you're still in sales and marketing. We all are.
You're selling yourself then. Yeah. Exactly.
And so you have to learn how to, do that. You have to network just as much as we do as entrepreneurs. You have to, be out there having those conversations. I had a client who joined a pool club because all the people that went to the pool club were all like senior executives that worked in these big companies that she wanted to get into. So she literally joined a pool club just so she could network with these people. Like, she liked pool too, but it was a great opportunity to meet these people, and she's gotten some opportunities out of it. So
amazing. Well, yeah. I mean, like, that's what you got to do. It's the path in the past. I noticed, when I say past, I mean even like 10, 15 years ago. As far as, well, you know, I can say this for the energy industry. Everyone I knew who basically got their jobs because they knew someone. So it literally wasn't about what you know, it was about who you knew. And then that person brought you in for an interview. And then if you nailed it and then you had the basic schooling, like, you basically got the job. But would you say right now, is it still about who you know, or is it just even more random as hell now with with just the amount of social media and everything, like, you know, or has it, or do you still think a lot of job finding is just who you know?
It is, I wouldn't say it's about who you know, but about who you're willing to leverage. So the relationships you're willing to build. So I have clients who have moved here, or, you know, moved to a different province or whatever, and they don't know anybody, and they start networking and they've gotten jobs through networking. The key is those personal relationships, when you can get referrals, or you can get, you know, that in, like you're talking about, that does make a big difference. Because if you're thinking, like, sometimes some of these remote jobs are getting like 2,000 applicants. How is a hiring manager supposed to decide between 2,000 applicants? Unless someone gives them an in and says, like, hey, you should call this person.
Right.
They're definitely going to call that person, because it's going to be a lot easier.
I hate to say, that's kind of how it worked with, you know, just some of the staff that, you know, we've ultimately found. It's like, well, we need a bartender. It's like, there's hundreds, like thousands of bartenders. Man. So I was like, oh, you know Joe? Okay, let's bring Joe in. Like, it was just as simple as that. And then you got all these people like literally still walking and handing a resume. And I'm like, I'm sure you might have been as good as Joe. I just at least Joe knew Jim, who, you know, like, got brought in. And it is kind of nuts like that. But like right now, I find right now just the way people are, they're almost like networking, like, less, you know, in a weird way, because their lives are so isolated, you know, because people they don't go out as much to meet people, you know. But that leveraging thing too, it's weird, because I've had people too where I'm starting to develop like a good time hanging out with them consistently, but then one day they finally like, hey, can I get this from you? And then I'm like, damn it, the whole time, you know, it wasn't about the hang, it was about, this is you networking. But then I couldn't be like hating on the situation. I'm like, because he was in that situation, so he needed that, you know. And then I think back in the past, like, that's why, like, I don't know, I guess I just had a little bit more luck in the past. I just knew someone, so and because they're kind of already a friend, it was like an in. But right now, just with you helping people, I guess, because like most of them, it sounds like if they're restarting their journey here to, you know, completely do a switch to find the job that they're passionate about, it's like maybe they don't have a network to like network off of yet. Like, they're really starting from like scratch per se, you know.
I don't promote becoming friends with someone just so that you can slam them with your question like 3 months in. I think there's better ways to go about it. It's like those, you know, MLMs that people are always like, hey, I haven't seen you in so long, want to go for coffee? And then they like slam you with their business pitch. I don't like that. That is not networking to me.
Wouldn't the pool thing be kind of that though too? Like,
but she also likes pool. I mean, it is, but I agree. I didn't suggest she did that. She just did that on her own. But I think that, you know, a lot of networking is, I mean, if you lead with kind of what you're interested in, and, you know, like, I have a lot of people who do informational interviews, so they'll be like, hey, you know, I'm looking to move into project management space. So I'm going to go reach out to a couple of project managers, and I'm going to ask them, like, ask for an informational interview. And then in that interview, they ask them, you know, tell me about the job to make sure it's a good fit, you know, find out about any certifications that might be current, and like getting more details into kind of what the industry is. And you're building a relationship, but you're building it around work, right? So you're building that relationship that way. And then, you know, inevitably people ask, you know, oh, like, do you need anything? How can I help you? Is there any way I can support you? And, you know, my experience with networking, because of my online business, has all been through LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a place where people come and they want to help other people in their career. And so if you're spending time on LinkedIn, like that is a great place to ask people for things. I mean, you can join a pool club
or
but...
straight networking event, you know.
Yeah.
But I also found those things like slightly kind of I don't know, just sometimes kind of lame, you know, because you just walk in, everyone's just kind of like, hey, this is what I'm about. What are you about? What are you about? What am I about? Like, it's just so blunt to the point where I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know if I can trust you. You trust me. Like, why would I reveal that? And then some of them are just like, oh, we're a networking event. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, here's my card. And then they blow up your phone like later on. You're like, we never meshed, man. Like, you shouldn't be blowing up my phone, or that's what you're thinking. And I don't know, but it is awkward because like business is trying to you're trying to find a way to what's the word I'm looking for? Is it altruistic? Like mutually beneficially show up and give to one another kind of thing, you know? But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think too, when you think about the pool situation, just like going back to that just for a minute, is like that was her idea because the market of people that were there were cool people, but she didn't go in there to be like, hey, I need a job.
Yeah.
Right. She went in there and she was like, hey, I'm just having fun. And then people are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm actually job searching right now for this. She didn't hide it. She wasn't like, oh, I'm not like, I'm going to be friends with you for like 3 months. And then I'm going to be like, give me a job. I think if you're just honest up front, then it just is a little bit better.
Yeah. It goes down just how are you doing the thing?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, are you likable the way you're doing the thing? Like, I don't know. Because just right now, with your, it just seems like you even said it yourself in your information's like you said, it's a tough market out there right now. Like the economy is it's as you said, it's an employer market right now. So like I just know, like, isn't Calgary right now the most populated it's ever been with not enough houses and not enough jobs?
Yeah.
So it's like we are in a tough stretch right now. I'm sure like when you look around, you kind of notice like, whoa, like there's an escalation in crime and homelessness and this and that. So right now it just seems like I don't know. I don't know if I'm not trying to offer any solution, but it's just, again, like it just seems it is tough out there right now, so I don't know. So some, I guess, like, compassion is good, but at the same time, I don't know. Do you think that there needs to be a more drastic solution to things right now? Like what do you think? What do you think of something like a UBI or something like that? Universal basic income.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like what do you think of something like that?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't. I'm not a very political person.
Yeah.
So I haven't really looked into that very much. So I don't really have that much of an opinion about that. I do think that, if you are in a job you hate, now is not the time to be quitting without having something else lined up.
Right.
I think it's just like not just with the way it is right now. I think that, if you're in a job, you need to keep it while you can still look for another job, right? Like it's kind of one of those things. Some of my clients, I see them, usually we say the job search is 3 to 6 months long. I'm seeing people who are like 6 to 12 months for a job. I mean, people are landing jobs. It just takes a lot longer and a lot more effort than it did before. And so I think that's, you really have to stand out. If you're not standing out, if you're just sending your cookie cutter resume, or you're just, applying online, you're not doing anything else, it's going to be take a lot longer, and it's going to be a really challenging.
I've noticed even with some resumes I've been seeing as of late, like it wasn't commonplace back in the day to just give your headshot, eh? Like, but now, do you recommend everyone just puts a photo of themselves and just slap it on as well?
No, you're not supposed to include a photo because a lot of hiring managers are trained to throw out resumes with a photo just to remove any bias. So some hiring managers, like some companies, have programs where they actually strip the name and all the company names from the resume, and they review them in a completely unbiased way. So it kind of depends on the organization. I think with diversity, equity, and inclusion being more popular, I think keeping your headshot off your resume is good, because then it allows them to be unbiased and not have any, unconscious bias that they might bring to the table. However, they're still going to look you up on LinkedIn, so they're just going to see your headshot anyways.
Yeah, or the social media, like it's I had one friend, not gonna name his name again, recently. He got back at me like, he can remove this and this, and we were together, and I'm like, why? He's like, well, I'm looking for work right now. I'm like, oh, okay. And then then he turned his Facebook name into something else temporarily, but I was sitting there thinking in my head, like, yeah, like, well, then may as well just give the headshot then, because they're gonna like look. Everyone's lives are out there anyway. Even if you put it on private, it's like then they're like, well, why is it on private then? You know what I mean? Like, the more I think about it, I mean, and so like that defeats the purpose. Maybe put headshots in everywhere now. I mean, like.
Well, you still don't want to, because hiring managers are still trained to throw out resumes that have them, which is, like you said, like we're saying now, it's kind of silly because of LinkedIn and everything. Yeah. But it is it's not recommended to include your headshot on your resume.
Mm-hmm. So again, you're just objectively looking at the resume that way, like interesting. The I guess just that, but it does seem like a silly practice to
it is.
Yeah.
Do you want to know one of the number one reasons why resumes get rejected?
Go.
An unprofessional email address. So if your email address is like kittycat55 at hotmail.com, it's time for an update.
True. Is it true that anyone with Hotmail in it is like looked over too now?
No, I don't think that's true. I've had people, as long as it's your name, something professional, even if you create an email address just for your job search, I think that's fine. But I also have a lot of clients who put their name and their birth year in there. So as like their name and then 1970, whatever, and that's their birth year. They can know how old you are, which is also not great for the job search process.
Right. Yeah. And I guess the age thing is like, because someone's older doesn't mean like, I mean, they could be in great shape and like, looks like Sylvester Stallone, I guess. And, or that's because that guy's 80, but it looks like he's like 60 or 55 or whatever.
I worked in an organization and I was a part of a hiring practice. Like we were hiring somebody and I wasn't the main hiring manager, but there was a bunch of people on the team and I was just helping people like look at resumes and decide whether we wanted to interview them. And the lady who was looking at the resumes was like flipping through them and she's like, this person looks too old based on her resume, this person, whatever, and was like sorting them that way. And I was just like, I was really young. I was like 23 or something at the time. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And lo and behold, it's actually illegal. So I didn't know that. Okay. But you can't actually make decisions based on, demographics or whatever. Okay. And so, but people do. That was a perfect example.
Like, how would the cops know?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, if you would have to, like
build a case.
But like that was an experience that I had where they actually straight up did it. It was like, oh, this person looks too old. We don't want to hire them. It's like, what? I was like, so it's unfortunate, but it happens.
Well, the world's just, like it's just like, I mean, you've kind of noticed yourself, I'm sure, like it's crazy unfair, man. Like it is, it's a bit jungle out there. It's like, I mean, we go in with this naive positive optimism, try to do good, but half the time you're like, man, like that's just not the way this thing goes, like, cause I don't know. Like, I had an old job in a bar. Not going to name the bar, but I remember like this one girl ended up dropping off her resume, but with a full photo and everything. And then my boss there was like, and like hired her. And then I was like, okay, well, like you hired her because she's hot, man, know? And then he's like, no, because she was confident enough to put a headshot in or whatever. I'm like, sure, bro, and then, and then the girl came in. Actually, she worked out for a bit, but she ended up like, just bartending, serving was not her. Like she was more like, and then she ended up quitting or whatever. But I remember, you're right. Like that. So that was illegal what my guy did.
Yeah.
That was straight illegal. Like, would you would you call the cops? Like, who do you go to like address? Would it be a labor board or like what?
I think it's the labor board, but it's like you said, it's really hard to prove. Like you'd have to have them actually. Like you can also like if you are personally discriminated against. So I know someone who was fired for being pregnant. You can go and file a human rights complaint. So those are other options as well. I definitely don't discourage anyone from doing it, but it's a very long process. Like it's not like if you're looking for a quick fix, it's not something that's going to be a quick fix.
What are we talking here? It'd be like a
year's worth, minimum a year. Yeah.
Oh wow! So it'd be like a year of bringing this up over and over.
Well, I know someone who has a human rights complaint out right now, and they are currently assigning files from June 2023. So. And give you a little bit of a perspective of how long.
Well, then isn't that entire system then kind of like not flawed, but kind of like there's no hope because it's like, hey, you got discriminated against. You probably did, and it's like, man, it's gonna take a year of my time to like address this. Like, I
mean, they got $10,000 out of it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Weigh your pros and cons, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Hey, Steph, I'm going to wind this down right now. I thank you for discussing a little bit about the things that we talked about here. I mean, yeah, you definitely offered me some different outlooks and perspectives on things. But right now, yeah, Steph Gillies is all of her stuff will be in the show notes there. So basically, yeah, if you need help finding your destination dream job, like definitely hit up Steph. And yeah, resume writing. I didn't get a chance to touch on the personal branding part, which is something I wanted to dive into, but maybe we'll talk about that real quickly here, and then we'll wind it down fully. Yeah, like how do you help people personally brand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people talk about branding a lot in like business. It's always a thing. You got to brand yourself or whatever. But it's the same thing when you're a job seeker, right? You need to, make sure that your resume and your cover letter and your LinkedIn profile is kind of aligned to what your goals are.
Okay, that's what you meant. Okay.
Yeah. So, and if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need to get one, especially if you're in the job search.
Yeah.
85%, I believe it is, of recruiters use LinkedIn to find their next talent. And I've had clients be reached out to through LinkedIn just passively. And so it's a great platform to be on. But like, you just want to make sure that you are portraying a consistent message. You want to write towards the hiring managers. You don't want to write to where you are. Like if I was working, as an administrative assistant, but I wanted to be a customer service rep, I don't want to talk about being an administrative assistant on my resume or my
you're
LinkedIn
talking about
profile.
Tailoring it to what you're going after. Okay.
Yeah, you want to talk about that customer service side, those times that you provided really great customer service, those times you've solved problems. So really thinking about your goals and then writing your brand towards that. That's really what's going to give you that edge.
Okay, that's okay. Sorry, like all good. Oh, we're good. Yeah, the verbiage kind of threw me off when I heard about that one, because I was like, oh, like are they talking about like personal branding as in, I don't know, like your resume, the colors is blue and white, and then you show up wearing blue and white, like you have like your own logo there or something, like yeah. Because did you ever? There's a South Park where they made fun of I guess like Kyle, like he didn't have a good brand anymore, and then everyone else was like, yo, you got to work on your brand, man, and they're like. He's like, what do you mean? I'm just Kyle Broflovsky. Like, why do I need a brand? And he's like, he doesn't get it, man. Like, and it's like, and then he went up going to this recruiter place. He's like, oh man, young one, I'm gonna help you with your brand or whatever. And then he end up like creating this alter ego, like I'm Kyle, I'm into basketball and like whatever. but he's just like a normal guy with like a like a logo now and stuff. And that's kind of where I kind of like chuckled when I thought, I was like, oh shit, like this is a real thing. But you meant tailoring resumes to have the same like message and direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for example, if I was a part-time career coach and had a full-time job and I was looking for a job, I wouldn't want my LinkedIn to be fully focused on my business. Right. I'd want to, while I'm searching for a job, at least I would want to switch it to the job I'm looking for or combine both together to kind of showcase a united front, rather than be fully focused on my business, so that if they went to my resume and then Googled me, they're not going to be like, what's going on here? I'm a little bit confused. You don't want to create that confusion because they don't have time to look into it. So
right. Do you recommend then that they just swap up all their socials then in the time of the job search to make it more like lined up as well? Like.
I mean, if you're using your socials,
just private everything at that
just
point.
make them private. Yeah, just private them. Yeah.
Okay. And I get okay. So I guess you specialize in that as well, the personal branding. Okay, amazing stuff here. Okay. Well, Steph, thanks for coming on. If you guys want to catch Steph's podcast as well, it's the Destination Dream Job podcast. It's on Apple. That's where I found it anyway. Yeah. What other platforms is it on?
It's on all the platforms.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And yeah, hopefully you guys took away something from this conversation, or I don't know, got mildly entertained, I guess, by some of the back and forth. But yeah, Steph, great meeting you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Kate. All right, see ya.